Hi guys, welcome to another one of my videos. Today I'm going to be talking you through this painting I did. It was actually for an assignment that I had. All of the information, I did this on Procreate, but all of like the brush info and stuff will be in the description if you're curious. So basically we had to find an obituary online and create an illustration based on it. And he encouraged us not to be literal and do just like a portrait of the person and kind of interpret what was written about them to create the drawing. So I picked a lovely lady who went by the nickname Pink, and like her whole thing was that she was a DIY queen. Like she always like repurposed her pantyhose and found a million different ways to use it. And so I got to thinking, I did like some like very light research on Pinterest and I just searched repurposing things and found like a lot of lamps. And I thought that was perfect with the pantyhose thing because of that famous like leg lamp. And I was like, oh my God, that works perfectly. And of course, everything has to be pink because her name is Pink. She obviously, like, she probably loved the color pink. I think that's a reasonable assumption. So I was thinking, like, okay, older woman, pink. And I was like, oh my God, pink flamingos, duh. And I ran it by my professor, and he was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, them's the vibes. Pink flamingo, old woman, retired, like, I don't know, Florida vibes. I don't know, like retirement home, like out on the lawn. And so that was like the whole vibes I was going for. And since pink was gonna be like a main color, I wanted like some accents as well. So you'll see I pick a lot of like oranges and stuff. In hindsight, I wish I included more of like the blue and cyan to contrast better, but at that point, girl, I was done with the assignment. But yeah, I learned something. It's fine. So yeah, I also wanted to evoke like kind of like a nostalgic vibe of old like 2000s children's toys, specifically like Polly Pocket and stuff, where like pink and orange and yellow, like sunset colors were such like um I don't know, they're just so punchy and juicy, and like now when I see the color scheme, I'm like, ugh, it just takes me back to my childhood. So yeah, those are all like the inspos. You can see like I'm moving on to color. The way I color, I've explained this before. It's hard to go in depth because it's not really anything crazy. I just put down some colors, like I try to keep value in mind more than like the actual color, because you'll see after I put stuff down manually, I'll go in with gradient maps, play around. This process takes like forever, you guys. I'll just play around with gradient maps, see what I'm liking, and then pick one I like, and then manually change some stuff around if I'm not completely happy with the scheme, and then go back into gradient maps and just repeat that process until I'm fully satisfied with the colors, basically. So now I'm just rendering the face. Full transparency, I redid the face like twice before. I wasn't happy with it. I think there's a lesson to be taken away from this. I know a lot of artists are afraid of starting over and they'll rework the same thing a million times and try to like fix it, but I think it's important to remember, and I always repeat this to myself, like it's become somewhat of like a mantra to me recently, but if you did it once, you can do it again. You know? Like nothing you draw is going to be like that's not going to be the best you could ever do because you already did it. You know what I mean? It's like don't be scared to restart. I had to like completely scrap the face twice before I was happy with it. So, just a little tidbit of, I don't know, motivational speaking or whatever. Um, but yeah, I also would like to call attention to the use of um contrast in terms of tone, like warmth. The cool like blue gray that I use behind the ears and like around the forehead and stuff. I just thought I should point that out because it's something that makes your art look so much better, but it's not always seen or like not always noticed like when you just look at somebody's work. And so it's something that like beginner artists kind of disregard a lot of the times, or they just like forget about it because it is kind of like subtle, or it's meant to be. I don't know. I just thought I should point that out. It might help somebody. Another thing that I wanted to play around with for this particular painting was the idea of space, or negative space, I should say. In her outfit, she's wearing like this halter dress. You can see I ended up getting rid of like the color that I initially put down, like that dark magenta, and I played with the idea of it just being kind of like a cutout. I don't know, I think maybe it's worth experimenting if you're interested in like making things more interesting conceptually in your work and not making everything so literal. That's something I've been trying to work on a lot. Um, just because at a certain point, like, I don't know, I just got a teensy bit bored of what I was doing all the time, so I've been really trying to experiment more. You can see I'm working on the big guy, the big chonker in the back. I really wanted to, like, I had this idea if everything's gonna be like a pink flamingo, I wanted there to be kind of variation in the types. So I was like, let me make one super realistic in the back of like, that's an actual flamingo. And then here and there around the background will be like the more graphic little plastic toy ones. So, for the hair, I struggled especially for this because I didn't want it to be super literal like how I usually paint hair. I wanted to look a bit more graphic, but it wasn't working. Like that's not my forte, and I tried. It just didn't work. It looked funky. And not in like a good way. It just looked funky bad. So I ended up looking at JC Leyendecker because I always love his art, and whenever I'm feeling lost, I'm like, let me see what let me see what he did. And he was really good at doing like, obviously it's realistic, but he was good at playing with shape and like strokes to make it look more patterned and abstract. So, um, that was the effect I decided to go with, when I was kind of feeling out the hair. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's different from how I usually do hair, which, like I said, is way more literal. Like, it's just hair. Like, I never make it too serious, especially because I never really have much fun doing hair. But honestly, this method like helps me have more fun, so I might continue doing this in, my other paintings. So I think it was a worthwhile experiment. I was the most excited for this part. I was like impatiently painting everything to get to the legs because in a way it's the highlight of the painting because that's like what inspired it, like the leg lamp and all that. So I knew I wanted it to stand out, so I made them more neon, like less warm pink. They're a lot cooler. They're like fuchsia, sort of. I don't know, but you can tell they're like purpley pink instead of the warm, like reddish flamingo colors. And I also went a little bit more graphic for this one, for the legs as well, because I used a completely hard brush instead of like a soft one to blend everything. Um, just because I thought it would make the folds work better, like the little crinkles near the knees and ankles. And I think I was right. I'm actually really happy with how the legs turned out. I decided to include collage elements to add to like the DIY element. I've also just been doing this. I just it's something new that I tried like last semester, I believe, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. And I've tried to include it pretty often in my art just 'cause like I don't know that you can never render something. I guess you can, but it's adding the texture of a photo is so different from like rendering something, and I love like the effect it gives. So I took a lace picture from Pinterest, I want to say. And yeah, I made it, I believe it was overlay or something. I just play around with the layer settings and I use it to add texture and like lace, and you'll see I use it in like a couple different areas. I use it on the lamp too, which you'll see later on in this video. But I also wanted to point out that I'm playing with the idea of negative space again with the shadows and the way the ribbon kind of blends into the background and cuts over the foot and flamingo. um, I just thought I'd point that out again to show like kind of more what I mean when I said that. Um, but yeah, now I'm moving on to the adornments of the lamp. I'm gonna be so for real. When I got to this part, I was over it. I just needed to finish the assignment. So you can see I'm like copy and pasting a lot. Like it's kind of obvious. Um, but I think it's fair. I mean, come on. I didn't want to render like 5,000 pearls. The painting was due the next day. Give me a break. But yeah, admittedly, I didn't put the most effort into the lamp. Well, the things on the lamp, the actual lamp, I think came out really nicely because the tassels, you guys will see it, but the tassels came out so sick, and it's because I use like a vertical halftone brush. It's like halftone like the dots, but halftone comes in all kinds of like pattern. Like I always prefer the line one over the dot one, which you see that like kind of throughout this painting. I didn't mention it before because like the brushes will be in the description, but um yeah, the halftone brush pack I use has a vertical one, and so I use that to make the tassels, and oh my God, I love it so much. And during critique, like everybody was obsessed with the lamp, and I was like, yeah, I agree. Like it came out super well, and like it literally took the least amount of effort because the brush did all the work. So I did kind of feel like, damn, am I a fraud? But no, I think I just was efficient and I used my resources properly. You know what I did? I worked smarter, not harder. That's exactly what I did. And so yeah, it came out pretty good if I do say so myself. I'm pretty hard on myself when it comes to art, but I was really proud of this whole drawing, and you can see there it is. There she is in her glory, but I also took another lace sample. Again, I think it was from Pinterest. Um and yeah, and I lined it up with a lamp and it saved me a lot of work. Oh, oh yeah, I forgot I did this. I also took buttons because I was nearing the due date. Yes, I was. And I really didn't want to paint buttons and I was like, I'll just collage it again because I don't know. I also thought it might tie everything together since I collaged the lace, but it was like the only element that was collaged. So I was like, let me add a little texture with the realistic button. Um, and I think it worked. I think it tied everything together pretty well. I really like the 4 point star motif, which is why you see it all around. I just wanted to point that out because it's something that I've been really obsessed with recently, and I use like the idea of negative space to kind of implement them. But that's pretty much everything. This is a finished piece. I hope you guys like it. I hope you like this video. It took me a while because some stuff happened. I got sick. So yeah, I hope you guys like the video. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.